Throughout human history, our lives have been filled with turmoil and disasters. Some of these disasters were caused by human error, a miscalculation, or pure ignorance. However, some of these disasters were simply out of our hands, yet cost innocent people their lives. Whatever the reason for the tragedy, I'm sure we can all agree that some pretty catastrophic events pop up in our minds when we're thinking about the worst things to have ever happened in recent history. Today, we'll be taking a closer look at some of these events and how they shaped humanity, for better or for worse. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos. Tragedy in the sky of Lakehurst, LZ-129 Hindenburg. The first Zeppelin to use diesel engines as its main source of power was the LZ-129 Hindenburg. This was one of the most incredible ships to have ever been made, and it was, by all means, the largest aircraft ever created in human history. This ship caused people's jaws to hit the floor as they marveled in its glory as it passed by overhead. The ship would take its first flight sometime in 1936, and everyone was left in awe by how incredible the ship was. By all means, the ship rivaled the Titanic in terms of popularity, magnitude, and the sheer wow factor. Though its similarities to the Titanic would not end with its incredible size, they would also echo as the ship met its demise just a year later. On May 6, 1937, the ship was impressing people once again as it was beginning to start its routine landing maneuver in Lakehurst, located in North America. However, no one could have predicted how this would become one of the most devastating events to take place in New Jersey state history. As the Zeppelin was making its way toward land, almost ready to touch down, tragedy struck. In less than 1 minute, this unbelievably giant aircraft would be no more, and the event would claim the lives of more than 35 people. The large air chamber was only designed to be used with helium gas. However, helium wasn't available in North America until a few years later. Because of this, an alternative fuel was used, but this fuel ignited in the balloon of the ship, causing it to erupt in flames and crumble down in less than 60 seconds. The catastrophe made newspaper headlines around the world and became known as one of the worst human errors and disasters in the history of mankind. While the tragedy of this ship may live on as one of the gravest mistakes a human has ever made, the lessons we learned from this catastrophe will remain with us for many years to come, and they've helped to further scientific research about aircraft and their fuel systems, so that we can fly more efficiently and safely for years to come. The worst environmental disaster in history, the Deepwater Horizon Oil Rig. I'm sure most of us can agree that taking care of our planet and our environment is super important. Without our environment remaining healthy and clean of pollutants, humans will no longer be able to live here. We've all heard about global warming, and many experts believe this could be caused by our constant desire to pollute the world around us. We've made great strides in recent years to reduce our pollution and our carbon footprint, but all of this pales in comparison to the devastating impact BP had on the environment back in 2010. By all means, the world may never heal from this disaster. BP is a massive oil company that transports oil all around the world. However, much of their operation is based in the United States between the Gulf of Mexico and Louisiana. The company was doing quite well, but no one could have predicted how catastrophic their systems could have failed until disaster struck for the company in April of 2010. The Deepwater Horizon Oil Rig suffered a major failure that led to more than 800 million liters of oil being dumped into the nearby waters. This oil would claim the lives of nearly every animal in the area, ruined all sea life and plant life, and occurred simply because of a human error that caused the systems to fail and spew toxic waste into our oceans. To this day, we have no idea what sort of devastating impact this disaster may have on our environment. Ducks, fish, birds, and other animals were lost by the hundreds of thousands. The situation grew so dire that wildlife experts began to flock to the area to rescue as many animals as they could, removing the oil and contaminants from their skin using dish soap. Dawn was one of the leaders in this endeavor, donating unprecedented amounts of soap to the rescue missions that were taking place. To make matters even worse, if they weren't bad enough already, the oil spill would soon catch fire. This meant that not only were animals now covered in oil, but they were being lit ablaze in record numbers. It's difficult to put the magnitude of this disaster into words. Not only were many animals lost, but 11 employees lost their lives as well. Even a decade later, we're still dealing with the aftermath of the so-called BP oil spill. Currents continue to bring nasty, oily water onto beaches across the world. Coastlines have been ruined, and some beaches were considered unusable for many years. We will not find out just how big of an impact this spill has had on our oceans for several decades, but this was certainly one of the most terrible cases of human error in the history of mankind. Momentous Bridge Dynamics – Tacoma Narrows Bridge. You have to admit, we didn't know too much about roads, bridges, or other means of transportation in the early 1900s. We did the best we could with the knowledge and resources we had, but to say we were experts in the realm of bridges would be a gross overstatement, and honestly, a downright lie. The collapse of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge would become one of the most popular news articles in 1940. This bridge's collapse led to researchers spending much more time understanding the impact that wind can have on long bridges. Thankfully, in this case, the collapse of the bridge didn't claim any lives. The bridge would later become famous after it collapsed, less than 4 months after it was constructed. But what happened to send this bridge plummeting to the waters below in such a short amount of time? To put it simply, a lack of research. The bridge was known for being long, narrow, and extremely lightweight. This meant that many people marveled at how the builders were able to do so much with the bridge, yet keep it lightweight enough to not put too much stress on the structure, though the lightweight design would eventually be the bridge's downfall. It wouldn't be long before the bridge was given the nickname the Galloping Gertie. According to many people, the bridge would flex and sway anytime a large gust of wind hit. This would send people and cars skidding across the road without a moment's notice, making it super dangerous to drive or walk on. Needless to say, this situation didn't get better over time. As more people began to use the bridge, it would begin to develop a resonance that would echo through the base of the bridge, leading to serious structural issues. On January 7, 1940, this resonance grew incredibly strong after a strong wind gust hit the bridge. Thankfully, everyone was able to evacuate before the bridge collapsed, saving countless lives. At the end of the day, only a single car and a dog fell into the water as the bridge gave way and collapsed. While it's still tragic that the dog lost his life, we have to remain thankful that the disaster wasn't far worse than this. If people hadn't noticed the bridge becoming unsafe, it's possible it could have been filled with cars and people when it gave way. The Ignored Risk – St. Francis Dam. A major disaster would shake the lives of everyone in Los Angeles on March 12, 1928. At the time, Los Angeles, located in California, was a very rapidly growing city. Everyone was flocking to the area hoping to find their place in the newfound world of entertainment and business. Los Angeles was filled with promises of making it big and maybe even striking gold. However, the city was quickly faced with a major problem as they began to need a large water supply in the early 1920s. This meant that they began to create several large reservoirs filled with water so that they could bring fresh water to everyone around the city. The lead engineer in charge of this project was William Mulholland. He helped create St. Francis Dam and inspected the San Francisco Canyon for building a dam in 1911. If these dams were constructed correctly, It would mean that water supply lines could be run all throughout Los Angeles, even if the city encountered a drought. This was a life-saving mission that promised to keep Los Angeles habitable for many years to come. Originally, William wanted to build the dam about 53 meters high, though he continued to modify his designs as the builders were creating the dam, continuing to raise it 3 more meters with each addition. Dams usually use their own weight to remain stable when they're filled with water, but a dam of this height was pushing the strength of the wood and metal to its limits, taking things far beyond the realm of potential danger. In the end, the dam was built far too large for the amount of water it was holding. A dam master soon began to notice cracks in the concrete of the dam, meaning it could burst at any moment. Regardless of this newfound information, William refused to repair the dam. In 1928, William headed out to inspect the dam as usual. Less than 12 hours after his visit, the dam burst, sending more than 45 million cubic meters of water flooding into the surrounding area. A tidal wave poured across the town and destroyed countless buildings and a power station. In the end, more than 550 people lost their lives as a result of William's negligence. The Space Shuttle Challenger. One of the worst disasters in human history has to be the Space Shuttle Challenger. The disaster took place on January 28, 1986. NASA's next space mission was set to take place, and the Space Shuttle Challenger was the star of the show. However, shortly after taking off, the Challenger began to break apart, claiming the lives of everyone inside, including a school teacher. After investigating the terrible disaster, experts learned that the seals of the aircraft had failed after they became far too cold the night before. As the shuttle took off from the ground, the seals began to leak, allowing hot gases to leak out. A small flame caused a fire in the lower part of the tank, leading to the entire craft breaking apart in less than 75 seconds as it was soaring about 16 kilometers in the air. This awful incident resulted in NASA changing several of its safety measures. They refused to send another craft into space for several years, and every craft they had been working on was readjusted and modified for safety. They also changed the communication systems within the company to help different segments of the development teams communicate more effectively with each other so that situations like this would never happen again. They also refused to let another civilian fly into space until 2007. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and ring the notification bell for more videos.